Is it bad that I spray every time I go and make a video because I think that you all could smell me? Anyway. Hey guys, it's DearKirah here again today and welcome back to my channel. The first thing I want to say before making this really weird video that I have never made before is thank you so much for your likes, comments and good vibes from last week's video. I know it was really hard for somebody to kind of accept it, and trust me, it was hard for me as well, but yeah. Thank you so much for being sweethearts about last week's video. As you can see, I've got my trusty Acer laptop. Not trusty at all, don't buy it. Acer is friggin' shite. And I'm going to be reacting to some fan fiction, which is fan fiction. Fan fiction. Not FANPHAN, which is Anaphyl fiction. Fan fiction, so I'm very scared. Okay. The first fan fiction I'm going to react to is called The Whisker Thick by Infinite Fandoms. Happy birthday, Phil, Dan said as he brought around my cake. So it's in Phil's perspective. I still found it hard to believe I was already 28, yet I wasn't complaining. I had the bestest friend in the world. Thanks, Dan, I said as I cut up the cake and served it for Phil and I. Dan and I, not Phil, sorry. I made it specially for you, Dan said with a little glint in his eyes. Was it lust? No, it couldn't be. I'm just overthinking stuff. Well, it tastes delicious. Delia Smith recipe, I assume, I asked, taking another bite. Nothing but the best for you, Phil, Dan replied, but I noticed that he hadn't taken a bite of his slice and I was quickly dozing off. Dan, I was going to ask if he'd put something in the cake, but I passed out. Ah, when I came to, I was tied up naked to Dan's bed. I was already terrified. Dan? I called out nervously into the darkness. I see you're awake now. I heard his voice in the corner. There was also meows coming from this corner. He came into view also naked with a slight boner. I admit he looked hot, but in this situation I'd rather not. Something was wrong. Very wrong. The closer he got, I noticed he was holding a small cat in his arms, petting it as he stopped at the foot of the bed. You like her? She's a part of your birthday gift, he said as he let the cat go. The cat instantly came over and rubbed its body along my face. I like her, I said, then hesitantly added, if you untie me we can play with her together. He laughed, but it wasn't his usual laugh. It was maniacal. This wasn't the Dan I knew. Now I was afraid. Very afraid. We aren't going to keep her, silly. And I'm not going to untie you either. That would just ruin the fun, he said, picking up the cat and laughing again. I started struggling with the ties around my hands. I don't know what's going to happen the longer I stay, nor do I want to know. This was a terrible idea as I saw Dan drop the cat and pull something from underneath the bed. The lash from the whip felt as if tiny sharp needles were being dragged hard and forcefully across my lower stomach. I hadn't even noticed I yelled until Dan stuffed something, probably socks, into my mouth. Don't want to try that again, do we? He asked, brandishing the leather whip in front of me. I shook my head quickly, hoping if I cooperated it would be over sooner or Dan would come to his senses. Good, he growled and showed a hungry smile as he brought the cat back onto the bed, which curled up on my stomach, making the whip marks sting. The whip was brought quicker than you could say cherry lube. The cat screeched and hissed at Dan while trying to run away, only to be caught by him before getting away. Dan, while holding the hissing cat, got on the bed and started to straddle me. Normally I'm quite used to this and occasionally boner I'd get, but I really didn't want to get one. It would just encourage this version of Dan even more. As he pinned the cat on my chest with one hand, the knife in the other, while the whip lied untouched next to us. I don't want to read anymore, I like cats. I'd rather keep my innocence with cats, please. Thank you. That was called The Whisker Thick. I'm not going to read anymore. You can go and look it up if you want. I'll leave the link in the description if you're already that sick in the head. So, whoever wrote that has massive problems. I'm sorry, you should probably go see a psychologist. So the last one is probably the worst. And it's called The Haptic, which is apparently, this is very popular because I got a lot of people requesting that I read this. Hey Dan, can we get a hamster? I always wanted one, but my roommate never thought we would look after it. Phil, we've talked about this. You wouldn't look after it properly. You can hardly look after yourself, he retorted. True. It wasn't really in an angry way, but he never even took into account that I was older than him and I lived by myself before him, so getting a hamster wouldn't be that bad. I decided not to argue. Dan was stubborn and wouldn't change his mind. I was going into town later on anyway, so I needed to get changed. I put on my usual of skinny jeans and a top on. When I walked past the pet shop, I couldn't resist but walking in. I saw a cage with a fluffy black and white hamster in the corner. I looked at the price, £10. It was too small and cute to say no to, so I bought it in the cage. I walked out just as my bus arrived. I paid my fare and hopped on. I couldn't stop smiling. My hamster was one of the best things I've ever done. I got home and shouted out to Dan, "Dan, come and see what I brought!" He bounced into the hallway of the front door. "What's up?" I raised the cage with the furry ball curled up in the corner again. The expression on his face changed from a sweet and innocent smile to a sick and twisted one with an evil glint in his eye. I love it. I was completely wrong about not getting one. "So what's it called?" Dan asked. "Can we call him Striker, please? I've always loved that name." I don't really know why. "Sure." His reply was cold and harsh. What was wrong with him? I shrugged it off and went into my room. It was only 9, but I was tired and I felt a bit ill. I pulled my PJ bottoms on and slid into bed. I opened my eyes and they were wide with shock. I looked down and saw I was naked with ropes tying me to a chair. What is it with Phil Lester and getting tied to chairs and being naked? God's sake, keep it in your pants. Morning, Sleeping Beauty. I was wondering how cold the room had to be before you to wake up. His voice sounded so fluffy and innocent, but the words coming out weren't. He was only wearing his fluffy brown hat. He pulled it off to reveal a small black creature sitting in it. Striker. What the fuck was he doing? I didn't normally swear, but the situation was so confusing I was terrified. Dan grabbed a gag from behind me and put it over my mouth. He walked over to the hat and began to stroke, looking over to me as he did so. After a short time, his seed exploded into the hat, but he didn't stop there. He kept on going until the hat was filled to the top. Oh my god! The hamster's still in the hat! After 5 minutes of his sick games, he pulled it back up, dead. He snapped the hamster's head off, the neck bone shattering and making me mumble that was supposed to be a scream. Tears flowed down my face and he squeezed the blood of Striker into the hat. He looked over at me. He was sick and twisted, but also kind of sexy. As I did as I was told, I don't know what else was hiding behind me. He began to pour the sperm and hamster blood mixture into my mouth, only for me to realise he had put my poor Striker back in there, head and body. I woke up to find Dan with the hamster's body and head in his mouth, chewing violently, bones snapping and crunching under his teeth. He had blood dripping from his chin. He crawled over to me and I licked off for him. He grinned as though I read his thoughts and he finished eating. And every month we buy a hamster. What is wrong with you? I'm really sorry for the twisted video that I put out this week. Yeah, I wasn't really expecting it to be that bad. We'll see you next week for another video. It is going to be Let's Talk About, so make sure you head over to that video. Thumbs up the comment that you personally want me to talk about, or comment your own little response for me to talk about, and see if your response gets a thumbs up. You never know, it could. So I will see you next Wednesday for another video. Goodbye! Every month we buy a hamster.